Hello. Is there anybody here? I don't think there is yet. That's fine. I'm early. Ah, I see people. Hello, Rogue. You're becoming a regular. How is everyone doing? Today in Berlin was the first time I could wear shorts, and it was the first time I sat out on my balcony this afternoon and read out there a bit. Hi, Jerome. I also have a special beer. It's not that special. It's Kilkenny. But the cup is, or the glass is special. It's a Prancing Pony cup. Hello, Elaine. Good to have you here. Glad you can stay. Not just bouncing through. What is everyone reading? I am reading because I'm in a readathon. I'm reading a read-a-thin, thin book. Seasons of Albion. I've just started it. I was reading The Spear Cuts Through Water, which Evie gave me, which is very interesting, but it's also over twice as long as Seasons of Albion. And I'm thinking I might not finish 5 books for the readathon, so I thought I'll read the thin ones as quickly as I can and see if I can finish all 5. 2.5 inches of snow. Trevor, you live in the wrong place. You idiot. You should move. I am, dear. Are you? Have you? I guess you have, if you seem so excited. Where are you, Trevor? Wherever it is, it's obviously the wrong place to live. Thank you, Trevor, for an awesome name for my sword. If everyone saw my recent video after my break, Deanne, okay, Deanne, I am I'm used to it from reading Robin Hobb, Dia. Trevor, Denver, 60 degrees tomorrow. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, Trevor gave my sword a name. Trevor is the first person to back me on Patreon at the high mage level. Thank you, Trevor. And named my sword Name Taker, which everyone seems to agree is a very cool name. Have my heart ripped out. I wasn't expecting that. Like the feeling I've got from Albion so far is it's kind of cute, fairy tale-ish. The writing is very simple. It's not bad. It's just not flowery or complicated. But have my heart ripped out. Okay. Not at all what I was expecting. I also, I've always, in my reviews, I always talk about book covers. I'm a designer professionally, and whenever I look at a book cover, I always get unavoidably quite a strong expectation. And this looks almost cartoony, maybe manga-ish. And it, so far, the writing style seems to fit that. I'm looking at it, looking at the cover and reading the book and thinking, yeah, they go together. So it feels a little bit light and simple writing and a bit fairy tale-ish. But Dia is telling me that that is not where the book's going. Okay. So we'll see. We'll see. Jerome, you could sit outside for your birthday party. Does that mean it's your birthday party? Your birthday today? Let me know. Happy birthday either way, whenever it was. Hey, Dan's here. Dan, I sent you a link. I don't know if you saw it. on Discord. If you want to join me on screen, you are welcome to. It's always nice to have someone to talk to rather than the text, voice, back and forth kind of thing. Cheers, everyone. For those who joined late, I am drinking at the Prancing Pony tonight. Strangely enough, the Prancing Pony serves Kilkenny. Who knew? Thank you, Brian. Happy Saturday yourself. I just before this, I think we ended about half an hour ago. I recorded a chat with Philip Chase and Paul, who we did one chat already on Philip's channel. This time it'll be on my channel, and this is the second book of the Book of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. Claw of the Conciliator is the name of the second book. And we just had a really, really interesting chat. And I thought that is interrupting my evening so much anyway. It's not like I'm going to record until 8:30 and then do much else. I thought it would be nice to have a bit of a relaxing splint time. Ulrika from Sweden. Blade itself. Okay, just getting started on some Jabbercrombie. Jabbercrombie is pretty awesome. I've read only the first trilogy. There's a lot more. Back when I read the first trilogy, there wasn't. So I read it quite a while ago. And I haven't caught up. So at some point, maybe next year, maybe later this year, I want to reread the first trilogy and then move on to everything else, because Jabbercrombie is a pretty awesome author. Hello, Stacy. It's afternoon for you. Raspberry pistachio tea. Yeah. Today was over 20 degrees in Berlin. You can Google what that is in American yourself, but it's the first day that I think it's been over 20 since last summer. So I was super excited out on my balcony drinking beer already in the afternoon. So nice. Third and fourth books of the Book of the New Sun later this year. Cavalier, Highway Cavalier. Yeah, I've read the four books of the Book of the New Sun twice before, but it was twice in the first or in the last 30 years at different points. And I have a crap memory, as I've mentioned. So I kind of remember some of it, but it's a complex book. And there are a lot of details that I have not. 68 in American degrees. So yeah, it was a gorgeous afternoon. It was a gorgeous afternoon. It was sunny. It was warm. Went for a long walk, did my shopping, audio booked Never Die as I was walking around. Never Die is basically a wuxia novel, if you know what wuxia is. It's very wuxia. Basically, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that kind of movie. That's wuxia. And Never Die is basically a wuxia novel. 7 degrees. Okay, but last Sunday it was 27. Yeah, 27 is nice. I'm Australian. I was born in America, but I grew up in Australia, and I got used to Australian temperatures and seasons, or lack of seasons. So in Sydney, where I lived for a long time, it was never colder than 10 degrees. It never got down to freezing. Like if it got down to freezing, everyone freaked out completely. It was really weird. So yeah, 20 degrees to me is autumn, like 20-ish, 68-ish American degrees. For me, feels like autumn. In Germany, it's it's spring. But it was warm enough to put on shorts and sit on my balcony, so I'm super excited. This is the first time I've done that since September, I think. Autumn and winter in Berlin are not go outside and do things kind of weather. Yeah, Stacy, I was in Russia. I've traveled a lot in Russia. Been over there a few different times, and I was in Vladivostok in the middle of winter, and it was minus 45 degrees. And it's the first time I ever thought in my life it's so cold I could die. If you stay out in that kind of weather too long, it will kill you. So, yeah, weather being a thing that you have to worry about your mortality is not a very common occurrence. So, we have 12 people who have joined. I have blathered on a little bit. Why don't we yeah, it hurts to breathe. Exactly. You can feel the cold air all the way down to the bottom of your lungs. It's really, really weird being in that kind of cold. Um, anyway, why don't we splint? I was thinking we read for half an hour, which would put us at 40 past the hour. So I'll put a little banner up and let's get reading. Enjoy your read, everybody. I will be back in half an hour. Hello. I don't want to shock anybody when I start speaking if they're wearing headphones. Hello, Evie. We've got to talk. Um, Spear Cuts Through Water. I am really enjoying, but I was looking at the thickness of it, and I'm in a readathon at the moment. And Spear Cuts Through Water is over twice as thick as Seasons of Albedo, which was also on my readathon TBR. So I've only switched. I haven't given up on the spear. Don't worry. Hello, hello, Dan. I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, indeed. So, how is everyone's read? What is everyone reading? Seasons of Albedo. I'm reading right now, but it's tiny. I'll finish it tomorrow. It's like 200 pages. It's kind of fairy tale-ish, but it's starting to get a little more slightly more gritty, slightly. But yeah. What are you reading, Dan? Can you hear us? I could hear you when you spoke, but now I see your hand, Dan. Yeah, I was joking, Evie. No, I didn't DNF it. I am quite enjoying it. Um, it took a little getting used to at the beginning, but I already said that. But I'm quite enjoying it. Stacy is reading Glint. I've never heard of it. Fantasy romance. That's why I've never heard of it. Not the kind of thing I would ever probably read. Murakami 1Q84. I'm a big Murakami fan from way back, but I haven't read any of his books he wrote after the mid 90s, maybe, or early 2000s. And I want to read 1Q84. Definitely. Dan, are you there? Okay, now I can't hear you, but it looks like you can hear me. Yeah, I can't hear you. Technology. Yeah, Kai, it's not a bit different. It's totally different. It's super different than any fantasy novel I've ever read. Um, are you muted, Dan, somewhere? Huh. Okay. Cannot hear you for some reason. Weird. Rogue is reading Red Rising. I keep hearing about that series and I would like to read them. It sounds like a lot of people said Red Rising itself is kind of Hunger Games ish, but that it gets quite different after that. Tigana is special, Trevor. I read Tigana a long time ago and quite enjoyed it. Also, kind of fairy tale ish, if I remember correctly. Um, but I read that and the Fionavar Tapestry by GGK and haven't gone any further. And I'd like to read one of his historical ish novels. Serentine Mosaic sounds like the one. Highway Cavalier is reading The Silmarillion. I'm proud of you. Yeah, parts of it are very readable. Parts of it are feel a lot like a history book. So I tried to read it when I was a teenager, which is probably the wrong period in life to try and read The Silmarillion. And I've got it on my list to give it a retry. I definitely need to get to that. So now you are muted in the software, Dan, but I don't know where else you might be having a problem. Now you're unmuted. Say something. No, not hearing you. I'm afraid. Revenge of the Rose by Michael Moorcock. Elric. I really want to get back to Elric. I read Elric when I was a teenager. So it's been a long time. But I actually had, I think I was 18 for my 18th birthday. My girlfriend, knowing that I was a Elric fan and that I was a Michael Whelan fan, gifted me the Michael Whelan cover of Stormbringer as a signed print. And it was pretty big. And somewhere in moving around the world numerous times, I misplaced it. I don't know. It was in storage in some friend's house or something. So it's gone. Wait, say something, Dan.
Yeah, I think I might have gotten it.
I hear you.
But does it sound okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. You just have to tilt your camera up so I can see something other
Yes,
than
you. That would probably help a lot, huh?
There
I'm
you
sorry,
are.
I'm still new at the whole streaming thing here, you know?
No big deal. No problem. Everybody, welcome Dan to the stream. If you don't know Dan yet, Dan's got a relatively new channel called the Black and Blue Collar Reader, and he's awesome. That's all you need to know.
But thank you. I do appreciate that, sir.
And he's a Malazan fan as well, and a Baker
Yeah, and I'm
fan.
only 2 books in, but I'm pretty sure, you know, I put in my application to become a true Malazan fan, and I got my Malazan name. It was okayed by Mr. Erickson himself. It is going to be Drambuie Dan,
Drambuie Dan. Okay.
Whiskey Jack.
Okay.
So it is official. I'm just waiting for the paperwork to be sent over.
Okay, cool. Not bad. Yeah, the only one I could come up with was Whiskey Matt, because I also like whiskey. I don't really like.
Yeah, I mean, whiskey, but it's very close. Whiskey Matt, Whiskey Jack. You know.
Yeah, it's a bit too close.
Bad.
Yeah. Did I didn't tell you. I was kind of on holidays some of last week and the beginning of this week. And my holiday was I was going to a gaming, they call it a gaming retreat. Not really a gaming convention, because basically you pay a flat price and you get a room to stay in, food, all the alcohol you want to drink, and it's 4 or 5 days long. And 2 of my friends ran role-playing games set in the Malazan world. So I got to play a sapper in Malazan, a Malazan sapper called Havoc, and I got to play a Malazan Talon named Eclipse. And they were pretty crazy, epic games.
So you actually had it set in the world of Malazan.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The guys running the games. The guys running the games are good friends of mine, and
that's awesome.
They are huge Malazan nerds like me, and they were just like, okay, let's take a game system that already exists, but let's set the whole story in the Malazan world. And it was super epic. It was really good. Brian is asking, where does Malazan rank in reading challenge compared to Book of the New Sun? Okay, if you had no problems with Shadow of the Torturer, you will have no problems with Malazan. Gene Wolfe is writing on a much more, I don't know, stereotypically literary kind of level. He's got a million references to other things. He's doing all sorts of things with symbolism and kind of following a Christian motif. So there's a lot of sort of biblical stuff going on in Malazan, in Book of the New Sun. They're, yeah, like Jerome says, they're difficult in different ways. Malazan started as a D&D game, and now Malazan has become the basis of a not D&D but role-playing game. Yeah, I actually said that to the guys running the games. I was like, this started as a role-playing game, and it was almost a movie, and then it became books, and now you're inspired by the books to run a role-playing game. It's
actually got me interested when I heard that in playing role-playing games, and when I heard that this is how Erickson started this world.
Yeah,
I was very impressed. I was like, so then I started, and of course I've never done it before, but I guess you kind of create the stories with the you're rolling, and is there a lot of imagination that goes into the game when you play it, or is it kind of set?
There is a lot of imagination. I mean, usually there are different kinds of role-playing games, but the stereotypical like D&D kind of role-playing game, someone's running the game. So if I'm running the game, I have an idea of a story, and then the players are each playing a single character who are on a quest together, or they have to complete a job for somebody or whatever. And of course, because you're dealing with people, and people are unpredictable, you don't know exactly what they're going to do with your story. But you can kind of steer it and influence it a little bit, but you want it to be open enough that the players feel like they're free and they're kind of doing what they want. But it's an interesting kind of storytelling. It's kind of collaborative in that the guy running the game sort of sets up some things, and then the players make something out of it, So it's pretty interesting. Evie asks, how would I compare Jimenez's writing to Wolf and Erickson? I don't think I would. I mean, Jimenez's writing, I only know 1/3 of one book. I didn't read Vanished Birds yet. But it's totally different. The Spear Cuts Through Water so far is much more like some literary contemporary fiction novels that I've read than it is anything like any fantasy novels I've read. It's got kind of a recursive nested story structure. So there's like, you're reading a story that has a story in it, that has a dream in it, and in that dream someone tells a story. So there's like, it's got a lot of story inside story stuff going on.
That has me intrigued, actually, to hear
the way you put it. It's the only book I've ever read that changes in one page from second person to third person to first person.
Wow.
It takes some getting used to. He's obviously playing with prose possibilities and playing with writing structure a lot, but I'm enjoying it. I actually like it. It's very wuxia. If you know, like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, those kinds of movies, it's got a lot of wuxia action kind of stuff in it, where people have amazing powers and they're flying and doing bizarre things with the wind and whatever. But it's got a totally bizarre structure, or not bizarre, but like unusual. I'm not used to it. Took a little while to get used to it, but I think I've clicked into it. And yes, I have met Defect. And basically the second chapter, a fellowship forms, and it is also the most unlikely fellowship of heroes that I've ever read in fantasy. It's just like a combination of people, and not only people, where you're just like, how did these people, how did these all do, what's going on? what's up with this group of people? Yeah, defect is I won't spoil anything, but defect is pretty interesting. There is a this isn't really a spoiler. There is a essentially across this huge empire, there is a telegraph network which is made up of insane, giggling, telepathic tortoises.
Really?
Yep. And they can all
I think I'm all in now. You sold it, man. It's like how you sold Malazan. Like, a dinosaur with freaking sword arms.
Dinosaurs with sword arms. Like, what else do you want?
Like, I'm sold. I was already sold on Malazan when you dropped that, though. But the giggling tortoises. Yeah, I'm down. I'm
insane,
totally down.
Giggling telepathic tortoises.
Oh, even better. Even better. I wonder if their telepathy is still slow.
Actually, it's funny that you should say that, because the character that she mentioned, Defect is one of these tortoises.
Okay.
And his telepathy doesn't work that well.
Yeah. His telepathy has a bit of a limp.
Well, yeah, he gets incomplete messages and
okay.
And, yeah.
That sounds like me on a daily basis, when I'm speaking. So that's probably going to be my dude. He'll be one of my favorite characters soon, I'm sure.
Wuxia action, outrageously oppressive empire, gods walking the earth, insane, giggling, telepathic tortoises.
I dig this.
It's
I know why she's just...
Cool.
She's like pushing this book on people, right? She sent it to you, right? Evie?
She sent it to me for Christmas.
Sent it to you. I think she sent it to somebody.
I think she sent it to like a handful of people.
Evie, I'm going to put my address in the comments, okay? Because I'm not allowed to buy new books right now. I bought a Kindle, and now anything over $10 is a no-no.
Okay. So. Daniel, we're talking about The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez, which Evie has been basically pushing like dealers push cocaine. Yeah. She's been... Wait,
didn't she do that in your video too? She's like, I'm going to cheat, or she said, this is over 500 pages, but this is what you need. And then she's like, but okay.
Now here's a shorter book.
Yeah. But you know what? When you sold it to me, like, now I get it. Now I get what Evie's been doing. It's
Evie says it is her cocaine. So, yeah, Daniel, we're talking about The Spear Cuts Through Water, which is just like I'm always really, really happy. I mean, I enjoy sort of typical fantasy structure. I enjoy cast of many, POV switching between chapters or even in the middle of chapters, like Song of Ice and Fire and Malazan and all of these different books. And I'm totally into the tropes, like people walking around with swords, killing dragons or riding dragons and doing magic and having training sequences where someone's learning magic and all of the fantasy tropes. But I really love bumping into a book where I'm like, this is not like any fantasy book I've ever read in numerous ways. And I wouldn't want all of fantasy necessarily to be like that, but it's so refreshing to like, oh, okay, the way I normally digest a book doesn't work here. I have to think about it a little more. I have to slow down a little more. I have to get used to it. It's a totally different mode than most fantasy books. And Evie, I haven't seen this info myself, but Evie was telling me Simon Jimenez doesn't read fantasy, right? So he's not like a fantasy fan who is subverting the tropes. He's writing a fantasy novel, not knowing what a fantasy novel normally is.
Do you know what he usually writes, though?
Well, not writes, but reads.
Okay.
He's only written 2 books, and the first one was science fiction, and the second one's fantasy, but like wuxia fantasy kind of, with a crazy structure, Like,
I love that. You know,
it's really good.
Really messes structure. It's something new. I believe I was discussing something about structure with some crazy professor dude that is on Epic Tales channel, and you know, like when we watch movies, you know, we have who's that nut job that we all like? Damn it, I'm so bad at this. Kill Bill.
Tarantino.
Tarantino.
Yeah.
Now, there's a man who messes with structure. You know, you are getting, at least in Reservoir Dogs, you started off here. This was your prologue, right? With some guy, you know, on the ground. Or I hope everybody's seen this movie. You know, if not, but you know, it was just so interesting how. And the professor was talking about how, you know, he had a professor that did this class, and he gave them a linear story, straight everybody a linear story, and told them to break it up into segments.
Right.
And for me, I'm thinking, okay, there's probably only one or two to make different ways you can do this to make it a cohesive story for people like us to, you know, consume. But you know, he said that there were like 5 or 6 different ways that people did this, and I
Right.
love it when structure is just played with.
So, correction. I think Evie and I were texting at one point. I think I misunderstood something. So Josiah Bancroft doesn't read fantasy. She says she's sure Simon Jimenez does.
Okay.
And science fiction. He's referenced Hyperion as a favorite. Hyperion, so far, for me personally, Hyperion is the best science fiction book I've ever read. Series, 4 books. It's insanely good. At least the first 2 are insanely good. The second duology, it's sort of like 2 books and 2 books. The second one isn't bad, but it's not as good. Fall of Hyperion. I mean, the first 2, the Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion, are just crazy good. I really want to reread them. I've read them 3 or 4 or 5 times already, but the man with the coolest name in BookTube,
Robert's here.
Punk Rock Cereal Bowl, is here. Cool. Thanks for dropping by. Rogue is a right person. Hyperion Cantos is one of his favorites. It can only be. Still not 100% sure on what the Shrike is. Yes, that is correct. You are not. And I don't think anyone is.
So I'd like to hear what you think. Name some good fantasies that you've read. I mean, I'm sorry, science fiction. Do you typically read a lot of science fiction?
I used to read a lot more.
Okay.
I used to read a lot more science fiction. I've got a pretty good idea of some science fiction stuff. I mean, definitely at the top of my list, probably tied for first place, is the Dune books and Hyperion.
Okay.
Very different books, but both really, really good. I'm trying to think what else.
Because I am starting my journey into sci-fi, but I chose Sun Eater, being a fantasy lover.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard, those tropes kind of blend, and it gets, you know, it's more fantasy within the first book is what I hear. Empire of Silence, as it goes along, it expands more into sci-fi.
Right. Evie, if you are talking to people that say Dune is not great, you should stop talking to those people. That's fucked up.
So I believe I really need to read Dune. I've heard the
problem. So it's not really a problem, but the interesting challenge, I guess you could call it, with Dune is that every book is very different from every other book, right? It basically, the first 2 are kind of a clear narrative.
I mean, I like Malazan.
Yeah, well, yeah. They jump in time, and characters.
Oh wow! All right.
Characters change a lot. Like the 3rd book takes place quite a while after the second book. And then the fourth book is almost only philosophy. there, there's a lot of characters having very philosophical discussions. It's interesting if you like that kind of thing, which I do, but I can understand a lot of people not. Like, I've only read the first 4 books, and then there was a whole bunch after that, which were kind of finished or mostly written by Herbert's son after Herbert died. And I've never tried to read them, and I've overall heard that they're not very good. And Evie is getting angry at me, crapping on Dune Messiah. I actually said I liked it, Evie, but I can understand why a lot of people don't really get into the philosophical shit.
Yeah, I've heard another great channel, Zara on Books, I believe. I you've ever seen? She just does book reviews. She's very good at it, and she loved. But she was also a big Baker fan as well.
Right. Yep.
And I need to know if you've read it or not. You said you might have. It's on your Kindle.
Which? Baker.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you did read it.
I'm pretty sure I did read it.
Okay.
But I have such a garbage memory, and I think I read it so long ago, and I don't think I continued the series. I think I only read the first one, and I remember nothing. I'm sure if I read it now, I would probably go, "Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, I remember this now."
I was going to hit you up in Discord and say, dude, just read it and see if you liked it or not. Because I really want to know what you think of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and people do compare it to Dune a lot.
Yeah.
From what I've heard out there in the Twitter sphere. So I always wanted to give Dune a shot. As well as anybody.
I just want to answer this what Brian said.
Yeah.
Brian, the thing to know about Dan Simmons, and this in no way for me has anything to do with Hyperion or books he wrote in the past, but apparently he's become a raging right-wing asshole and has totally gone off the rails and written a lot of books that lean in that direction pretty hard and said some things, I don't know, in interviews or whatever. I'm not fully informed about it, but because to be honest, unless I know them, I don't really care who an author is. Right? I separate the art from the artist as much as I can. If the art is expressing stuff I find reprehensible, of course I'm not interested.
Right.
But if the artist, like James Brown, was a wife-beating crackhead, but I love his music.
And you could say this about plenty of artists.
Absolutely.
That are. I mean, Van Gogh cut his fucking ear off.
Van Gogh was a sick boy. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's
help.
a lot of people that you have to separate that from, unless what you said, they are writing this stuff as their points in their books.
And I've heard, I haven't read any, so I can't say from personal experience, but I've heard that Dan Simmons's later books, like relatively recent books, are kind of like that. That he has put in some, I don't know, weird racist stuff or whatever. I don't know exactly what it is. All of this is secondhand knowledge. I don't know the guy. But yeah.
Can I take a stab in the dark? Is he American?
Could be. Yeah. yeah. He's
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I mean there are right wing. I've lived in Europe for a long time, and there are right wing assholes in Europe.
I saw something where there were. You know what? We're not gonna get.
Political. The cool thing about
I'm just not
right wing assholes in Europe is they don't get any airtime.
Good.
Like
That's good.
Nobody listens to them, and they're a distinct minority. So, yeah.
Yeah, I saw some of our later president shirts on some people in London. I was like, really? But
were they Americans?
No, there was like some sort of riot, and there was like, Make England Great Again shirt.
Oh yeah, no, they.
I was just floored.
You know about Brexit, right?
No, I unfortunately I don't.
Okay, so Europe, not all of Europe, but a lot of Europe, many countries are connected by the European Union. And it's not like the United States. It doesn't make us all one country, but it opens borders and it makes trade easier. And we share a currency, which we didn't until early 2000s. And the UK used to be part of that. England used to be part of that. And last year, I think it went into effect. They had a big vote. And a lot of people, basically with a thinly veiled racism, campaigned that the UK should leave the European Union. And they did. So, like, it used to be I ordered things from the UK all the time. I don't do it anymore because I have to pay customs now. And it takes forever and, you know, all sorts of stuff like that. But it also means that all of the Polish people who used to do all of their plumbing, building houses, all of the shit jobs, like London used to be like 10% Polish because lots of Poles went over there for jobs. They all had to leave. So now you can't get plumbing work done in London anymore. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. 2016, is it that long? I'm pretty sure it went into effect last year. I don't know about when the vote was, but it went into effect last year because last year on all of the borders going to and from the UK, you had trucks that were just stopped. And the stuff in the trucks, like I actually talked to a truck driver who delivers country to country seafood. And he had to sit at the border for 3 days because nobody knew what to do. Like all of a sudden the border's closed, but there are no rules for it. And things are just super unclear and all of that. And yeah, he lost his entire shipment. Dan, Evie can't find you on Discord.
Yeah, so I did change it from HD Elliott to Black and Blue Collar Reader now. So right. I am if you're in the
Grimoire.
Yeah, I'm always in there, but you know, lately we have been in the Key Mark because of the readathon. I am in the Beanie Barbarians, you know, in their thing.
The correct team to be in.
Yeah, and if you go in there, you might even see some hippie photos from me from like '96. So I did post some old those photos of me.
It's been really nice. I would like to say I don't know how the other teams are, but the Beanie Barbarians. On the Keymark Discord in the readathon have been so encouraging and supporting and
Tori,
nice. She's been great. Really, really cool.
Everybody, you're right.
Yeah. The whole channel has it's been real fun being in there. And we're going to win, of course, but
I hope so.
That's
I got this one to finish right here, which is I've been taking my time with this because it's the last book in the second apocalypse. And I also, I'm sure everybody, I'm going to get that 1993 Men-at-Arms so I can get an extra point there. And this is...
You've read the ones before it, right?
I have read Guards.
Guards.
Yeah, and I think this is the next.
I'm pretty sure it's the second one. Yeah. I think it's Feet of Clay after that, or I'm not sure.
That I heard that to do the not the Men-at-Arms, but the
City Watch.
The City Watch series first, and I'm really into Death too. You obviously hear about the books. I really want to get into his stuff. That sounds really cool. But yeah, I'll probably finish up Men-at-Arms by the end of this month. I'm pretty sure I could do that in like 3 days if I tried.
I read Guards earlier this year or towards the end of last year at some point. and really enjoyed it. And I had always put off Terry Pratchett, like comedy fantasy. I'm not interested, but I really enjoyed God's Gods. And I have Men at Arms and the third one on my shelf. Looking forward to it. So why don't we slowly start another sprint? Oh, Brian. Yeah, maybe fantasy comedy is just not for you, but I've heard a lot of people say The Color of Magic is not awesome and that later things are much better. And God's Gods was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And it's a good story. Yeah.
Brian, that Guards is up there on everybody's top.
Yeah.
Give that a try before you put down a series like Discworld. I would definitely advise that.
Yeah. So let's sprint another half an hour. So until 1:45, I'll just put up a thing that says that. Dun, dun. So happy reading, everyone. See you in about half an hour. Hello. You're right, Evie. I was not muted. I forgot.
Well, thank God I was.
Alan. I don't know if Alan is still here, but he stopped by to say that his words will echo into a void. Very poetic, Alan. Oops, I can take that banner off. Yep, I wasn't muted. Oops. Alan is here. What an honor having the master of sprints in one of my sprints. Alan sprints a lot more than I do, or has certainly been sprinting a lot longer than I have.
Yeah, I really want to know if that sprint went under 50 and it blew up the other night, because I was at a wedding and I couldn't make it.
I'm pretty sure if a sprint has Alan in it, it will blow up.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He's a very
Energetic?
energetic, yes. Mercurial, I think I learned that word. Very mercurial type personality.
Mercurial.
Mercurial. Thank you very much.
He's like Mercury.
If you guys don't know, Matt and I, we have comments on Discord, and he's always trying to help me become smarter and correct my
I'm not the person to help anyone become smarter.
I think I'm on the rung below you. So you are helping, whether you know it or not.
I just had a chat with Dr. Philip Chase and with a PhD candidate, Paul, about a book that is complicated and has lots of references to all sorts of stuff I haven't read. And the only thing that makes me feel good about talking to the two of them is Philip basically said he's confused.
That makes you feel a lot better.
And I'm like,
I would, yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm in good company. I'm also quite confused. Philip's a dork, apparently. Yes. If you wear that much tweed that often, you are officially a dork.
Wait, come on. The shirt underneath is always pretty damn cool. I mean, it has that hippie-ish Hinduism vibe, you know.
Totally. I am a Buddhist. I've been a Buddhist for, I don't know.
Also, okay.
20, 25 years or a bit longer maybe. And when I first saw Philip's videos, he's got mandalas, like Buddhist / maybe Hindu mandalas on his walls, and his shirts are very often mandalas as well. And I was like, oh, cool, he's a Buddhist. And then I talked to him about it, and he was like, no, my wife is Nepali. And he's interested in Buddhism, like philosophically, but he's not a practicing Buddhist. The illustrated edition of the Silmarillion is helping. Okay. I have not got an illustrated edition. I have a fancy slipcase anniversary edition and a paperback, but I don't know the illustrated edition. Is that with illustrations by Tolkien himself? Because he did illustrate a lot of things himself, but I like Alan Lee's illustrations as well. I've got the big, like all 3 books in one with illustrations by Alan Lee, and that to me it's become my head cinema. That's what Middle-earth should look like. Way of Adan certainly reflects his interest. It does. The Way of Adan is also one of those books where I was constantly, while reading it, I was like, I'm sure there's a really big Norse / Old English something background to this detail, which I don't know, but knowing Philip, I am sure. Tolkien's illustrations. Okay, yeah. No, he he had an extremely distinctive hand. Like I would recognize his illustrations anywhere in any context. You know, he had a very almost childlike. I mean, he wasn't trained as a visual artist. Yeah, he was just drawing kind of because he felt like it, I guess. Does anyone know Tolkien's Father Christmas letters? Anyone in the comments know the Father Christmas letters? He wrote every year at Christmas. He wrote a letter to his grandchildren, I think, and it was done in such a way that it was really Father Christmas, like Santa writing to the kids and telling them about his polar bear. His assistant was a polar bear, and all of the stupid mistakes that the polar bear made and how they organized the gifts at Christmas, and he illustrated them. And there are these amazing illustrations of like Santa and the polar bear wandering around at the North Pole and the northern lights in the sky. And I mean, there's just, I used to have a book. I don't know what happened to it, but there is a nice book of it with like big illustrations and then the handwritten letters on the other page. It's really, really nice.
I bet that would be a collector's wet dream right there, that to get one of them.
I don't know if it's still in print.
Not in print, but
might still be in print. Oh, like the original letters.
Yeah, the original ones he sent to the children. If they survived this many years,
I hope they're still in possession of his family.
That would be really cool. I just think that would be awesome.
It's not the kind of thing that you should be selling. I mean, there are people who are older than us who got those letters as kids, and I would hope that they fold them up every year and send them to their own kids or their grandkids or whatever. Yeah, Liam, I think.
Yeah, or a librarian. Yeah, a library somewhere. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, well, there's the Tolkien Foundation, I think, which is they collect and archive like in acid-free, perfect environment kind of stuff, all sorts of his notebooks and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly, Daniel. They're like a crazy epic fantasy Christmas story. They are. They're really kind of weird. And I was always super jealous when I read them. I was like, I wish I had been Tolkien's grandson.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Like getting one of those letters every Christmas would be like the highlight of the year. Yeah. So what is everyone reading? You said you're reading Baker.
Yeah, so I'm reading his final book in the Second Apocalypse series, which is The Unholy Consult. I'm also meandering through Snakewood by Adrian Selby, but I did finish Jade War, and the world building in that book was just phenomenal.
Now that's the third.
I'm sorry, Jade City. Did I say Jade War?
You said Jade War, yeah.
I said Jade War. I'm sorry, Jade City. I finished the first book because she's setting that world up there, and I just thought it was so rich, right down to colloquialisms of I offer you a clean blade, and the words that they use that they're from history of, if nobody knows, this is like a gangster story, and
it's kind of Japanese-ish,
Chinese-ish. Yeah, it is Asian. Yeah, so I'm not exactly positive which culture it may be surrounded more by, but you are thrown into that culture, and it's amazing. Like certain intricacies, like who gets offered tea first when you're a guest, or if you're an honored guest, who gets served first, and it was very intricate and well put. My only maybe small gripe would be, I am, you've heard my accent. I'm a I'm a Jersey guy, so all the movies that
Hard to
I
miss.
loved, I love the gangster movies,
Right.
and there are gangster tropes, and you definitely see them, within this book. That would be my only minor gripe.
Okay. Liam is reading House of Chains. House of Chains is kind of in the middle of my Malazan ranking. I remember finding House of Chains a little confusing, like more confusing than usual for Malazan books. The first time I read it, I just reread it recently, but it didn't really go up my list. I think towards the top of my list are like Cripple God and Memories of Ice, and then maybe one scene in Toll of the Hounds. Toll of the Hounds is a weird book because it's got one of, I think, the best scenes in all of Malazan. And then it's also got some bits that are a bit draggy, a bit slow, and some characters that I had a hard time caring much about. But it's got an amazing, like, there's one particular scene where you're just like, oh my God, every 30 seconds. Like, it's just, and it goes on for pages. If Alan's still here, I think he would agree with me. He's reading Blade of Dream, which I don't recognize the title. Blade of Dream.
You had to assist us on that, Alan.
All of those thing titles, I almost always, they all sort of blur together for me. That's why I made that video. Liam is enjoying House of Chains more than Memories of Ice.
Don't tell me that. I'm 100 pages in Memories of Ice, and I really dig it, but I had to put it down for the readathon, and I've just been itching to get back to it.
Memories
and I've
of
heard
Ice
so many good things as well.
It's way up the top in my ranking.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really good. Yeah, I would also put Dead House Gates above House of Chains myself, but different tastes.
Yeah, Dead House Gates is my favorite book of the year so far. And it might not be replaced, but I am getting to Memories of Ice, so we'll see what I feel about that. Yeah, that may.
I don't know, but certainly for me, like Dead House Gates is pretty amazing, but Memories of Ice is above it for me.
Okay.
It's pretty awesome. Dead House Gates is very, very good though. But I'm a sucker for good battle scenes. And there are a couple of battles in Memories of Ice that are just shit exploding all over the place and big stuff happening. It's pretty cool. Daniel Abraham, sequel to Age of Ash. Sometime soon, in the next couple of months, Alan should probably be happy to hear that Joanna is going to buddy read LPQ with me, Long Price Quartet. We both haven't read it, for which Alan looks down at us, I think.
I've heard a lot of good things about that, actually.
I've heard only good things. Yeah.
I think Evie has read it too, I believe there's a lot of whisperings going on and positive.
Yeah, I just discovered recently that one of my offline friends, I was showing him my bookshelf, and he was like, "Oh, you've got Long Price Quartet. It's really good." So he's a huge fan as well. So, yeah, we're getting some Dead House Gates better. Also, Dead House Gates better, but Capistan in Memories of Ice is awesome. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it certainly is. And I think this is a reaction to us reading LPQ. Yeah. Joanna and I both realized that actually she sent me the first book for Christmas last year. which I already had. So I bought Stoner and Lonesome Dove with the price of what she had sent me. Wow, everybody likes Dead House more than Memories. Okay.
Dead House was fucking amazing. You know,
Yeah,
it was
no,
really good.
I think it's just
How many times have you been through the series? Do you think it changed? Did you always like Memory of Ice, or did the opinion change? Okay, it didn't change after like another reread or anything like
no,
that.
my opinion of Gardens of the Moon and Dead House Gates changed.
Okay,
I'm
so
reading it the second time now. I'm up to book 6.
okay, so this is on your second
Second reading.
time
Yeah.
on a reread of Malazan. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and Gardens of the Moon, of course, I wasn't confused anymore. Like Gardens of the Moon is like, to start with, is kind of confusing. And of course, I didn't have that because I already understood the magic and I understood the Malazans and the weird politics going on and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So Gardens of the Moon went up a lot in my opinion. Dead House Gates did as well. Not that I thought it was bad the first time, but I think I understood, particularly Fellison. I had more empathy with her, I think.
That's a big topic, you know. But
Yeah.
you know, I was listening to I think it
Tori
was
has a really good video about
Tori
specifically
has
about Fellison. Yeah.
excellent that I watched that video after I was done, because in the middle of it she goes into Memories of Ice, but I only watched the part up until Dead House, and I was gonna tag her in the video, but I didn't want to be. This was, I think, like my 4th review ever, so I didn't want to start just tagging booktubers out of nowhere. But
that's what I did.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I need some subs, so maybe I should start doing it. You know,
that's how I met a lot of them, is just by like randomly tagging them and that kind of thing.
Speaking of tagging, I ran. Yeah, he's still here. I ran into Alan's initial newbie booktube video. I think it said 2 years back, and I think he's been on for 3. But you know how when you watch like an 80s show or something made in the 80s, and it has no, it's not that big. It's not, but it has like that filter that looks like it was made in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Like his video looked like it was longer ago. Like his hair was longer and stuff. I was like, it was only 2 years ago the video came out, though. But it was great. I think Alan's going to be celebrating 3 years soon, I believe. And I said he needs to show this video in it, or at least a clip. He's like, you know, here's my start. This is where I started at. And he's still the same guy. It's great. He's still so fiery. And like, it was like, at one point, he's like, this is what I like. Fight me about it. And he flicks the thing. I'm like, dude, this is great. He needs.
Nothing's
changed. Like commented on it. I'm like, you have to show this on your 3-year anniversary celebration.
Nothing has changed.
That's great.
At least with the attitude, anyway. It maybe he's cut his hair since then.
I would say the attitude and him just not holding back. I love that, by the way. But it initiates conversation. Because you have people who disagree. And I feel it's good to get that ball rolling, you know, that dialogue going of certain things that maybe people don't agree with, but maybe they can see what he felt like. He didn't like Sazed. And I don't know if you read Mistborn, but he was like, Sazed was such a whiny little bitch. And I'm like, I love Sazed, bro. Lay off of him, man. But I understood what he was saying, because when you go back and you read, I think it was the last book, he is kind of like in this depressive state. You want him to snap out of it, you know. But you know, it's so fun to see how other people view different things, you know.
Yeah. And I mean, I would much rather, what I'm really looking for if I look at a new booktuber is I want them to have a personality, you know, that you can see in the video, that you can experience. And some people, it just the presentation is so neutral. I'm like, I have no idea who you are, you know. And I like a big personality a lot more. Like I saw your stuff with your personality, and I was like, okay, new booktuber. He's obviously figuring some stuff out still, but he's obviously fun. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, I enjoyed your
it's
first
loaded
videos,
with
so.
personality. I just
Yeah.
wish I could, critique a little better and sound a little more, intellectual, so to speak.
Don't try and sound intellectual, but I mean, because like you're unlikely to. And I'm also unlikely to. I don't have that kind of education, you know, and I'm not going to start it at my age, you know. But you talking to other booktubers, especially people like AP and Philip and whatever, has made me start thinking differently about what I read.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm never going to have the vocabulary, the academic, intellectual vocabulary that they have. And every now and then, like in the chat we were just in, Paul threw out some terms, and I was like, "Dude, I think I know what you mean, but I don't know those. I don't know those words. Could you explain what those words
Can we layman this down, please?"
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, bring it down to like a 15-year-old level, maybe 18-year-old. Yeah.
His hot topic face.
Yeah.
Alan, did you put that on? Yeah, I'm sorry. Alan said, I loved, says that until he entered his hot topic phase, which I believe Alan's probably about my age, and hot topic was a thing growing up. You know, if you wanted a Marilyn Manson t-shirt or something in all black with black lettering and a filtered black picture, you know, you went to hot topic over here. It was, I think, emo, they used to call it back then. And now I believe it might be emo now. I don't know where we're at. But, you know, it was a phase that hasn't gone away, which is fine. I'm okay. Yeah.
Brian Bell says he's very grateful for the Kindle Dictionary when he reads Gene Wolfe. I'm very surprised that the Kindle Dictionary knows anything about the words that Gene Wolfe uses. I actually bought, because I've already read the series twice, I don't recommend this for a first-time reader, Book of the New Sun. Just read it. But I'm working on my third read, and I wanted to get a bit deeper into it and a bit more detail-oriented. So I actually bought Lexicon Earthus, which is a dictionary, which is about this thick, which lists all of the words that Gene Wolfe uses that are not in common usage today. The interesting thing about that book, we just talked about it in the chat with Philip and Paul. The interesting thing about that book is he didn't invent any words. It's kind of science fiction, kind of fantasy, but he didn't invent any words. All of the words he uses that you've never seen before come from dead usage. So they're like older words in Latin or older words in English or German or French that people just don't use anymore. And he kind of resurrected them and used them as words in this fictional world.
This is one of the themes, right? Is language and interpretation in this book?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got a lot to do with language. It's got a lot to do with memory, and how unreliable memory can be, and also how subjective it can be, and also like the culture of the world. It's not really a spoiler to say it's far in the future of our Earth, but it's so far in the future they've forgotten almost everything, and it's basically medieval.
I mean, I think Alan would be upset to hear this, but Latin is going. I believe he's a Latin teacher, and this is, you would think, and who knows, next 100. I mean, we have our legal, our legal institutions are going to be using these words. But
and medicine and biology and stuff, but it's very specific.
Yes, and I would say probably most of the language, nobody speaks at all.
Since the Catholic Church stopped doing Mass in Latin, that pretty much decreased the Latin speakers down to people who teach Latin, like Alan. So, yeah, it's still kind of weird to me that it's taught in schools, you know.
Yeah, I
but
think a lot of people who go into law actually go into, do that as like a minor.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed, I remember this from when I was a teenager. I actually took Latin in high school. And I remember very clearly that after 2 years of Latin, my English comprehension went up a lot because I could look at complicated words and I could break them down based on the Latin roots because I knew the Latin. I didn't know the word in English, but I could look at it and go, oh yeah, that's that. It probably means this, you know? So it was useful for that. Yeah, exactly. Out of use words in English are direct Latin derivatives. Yes, that's the purpose. Indeed. But the only things I can remember how to say in Latin are semper ubi sub ubi and agricola est in puer, which means always wear underwear, and the farmer is in the boy.
That is, I hope we don't use that much these days.
I think that gets used very much. And semper ubi sub ubi does not actually literally mean always wear underwear. It means always wear as in place, under wear as in place. So yeah. I am gross sometimes. These were things that a 15-year-old
found hysterical.
with his friends made like, what can we say in Latin that's actually fun, or would piss off our teacher? So
I don't know. Is carpe diem Latin?
Yep.
Okay.
Fish today. Yes.
Yeah. Fish today. Carp. Yeah.
In puero. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's been a long time since I took Latin. A long time. I'm amazed that I even remember 2 extremely stupid phrases in Latin. I've lost pretty much all of it. That's the thing for me with like a language that's abstract. You know, like you can't use Latin to communicate with people, you know, unless you're working in some sort of very specific weird field or you're a Latin teacher. It's kind of no use, and my brain throws out things that are not useful or at least not used regularly. There's limited space in there. So yeah, I've learned some Spanish, which I've long forgotten because I just never had the occasion to really speak Spanish regularly.
I had like 8 years in Spanish, and I learned more from working in the restaurant than I did in school. And I'm pretty fluent in Snoop Dogg, but other than that, you know, I wish I was
lingual.
Thank you. See, like I told you guys, he helps me a lot. You know, I really, because I've been to Paris, I've been to Amsterdam, and it's always the ignorant Americans that can't figure it out or just speak to, because everybody speaks English. Like, you're not helping me, guys. You're really not. Like, let me try this, you know, merci beaucoup. You know, I want to try this. Okay. You know, where's the Louvet, whatever it is, you know, but they saw me coming a mile away. They knew I was, you know, there was no hiding that.
You get kind of used to it, like living in Europe for long enough. Like walking around in Berlin, it's not that noticeable because Berlin's super mixed. Like there are a lot of Americans, but they live here. And there are also Russians and Japanese and French and everybody who lives here. But when I travel around Europe and I go to places that aren't quite as mixed as Berlin, I like American tourist from like a kilometer away. You know, first of all, Americans generally speak louder than everyone in Europe.
I can see that.
So you can hear an American coming before you see them.
That's true.
But then you look and you're like, nobody in Europe dresses like that. You know, it's just like there's a particular look.
But it's funny because when you go out there and you are trying to have we speak louder, but you guys talk closer. You're like, I'm like, this is my personal space here. You know, like I
depends on where you are.
Depends
on where you are.
That cultural thing. I think there is a bit of a discrepancy between Americans and others of how close people get to each other when they are conversating. But I that could have just been me. Maybe I just found a close talker, a few times, but in Patty. But yeah, I thought the space and everything was smaller. The bathrooms were smaller. Everybody was taller. I was like, man, there's some NBA players out here when I got to Paris. And then I went obviously to Amsterdam, and they're just mountainous out
there. The Dutch are pretty big, yeah.
Very tall.
That's true. Yeah. The Swedish as well. Like I've been up to Sweden a few times and everybody's blonde. Like all of the locals anyway. Like there are a lot of immigrants up in Sweden as well, so not everybody, but like all of the Swedish are tall and blonde. Yeah, it's pretty normal. How about we have one more sprint and then I need to go to bed. So let's go until 1:45 again. I'll put up the banner. I'll mute myself this time. And everybody enjoy your read. Hello. How is everyone? Good reading. Legion of Flame by Anthony Ryan. Andrew is here. What's up, Wiz? I do not know the book or the author, but again, it's a Thing of Thing title.
Gotta love the Thing of Things. You know?
Yeah.
They found a niche, and it continues to work and thrive.
Yep. I wonder sometimes if publishers actually encourage authors to call their book something of something if it's fantasy. It's much more common in fantasy than science fiction, for example.
Wouldn't doubt it. You know, the formula apparently works.
Yeah.
We are buying it, and they might stick with it.
Andrew's reading it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for everyone who's still here. It's not that many anymore. And it is midnight here in Berlin. So I'm gonna shut this down. It's been fun. I got a lot of chapters done. I'm about halfway through my book now because it's so slim. Legion of Flame is cool. It's like Mistborn, except you get powers from dragon blood instead of metal. Well, that's kind of inconvenient. I mean, metal is a lot more convenient to get than I imagine dragon blood is. But yeah. Anyway, so I am going to go to bed. All of you Americans still have a lot of light
Reading
and
time.
day.
Mm-hmm.
So enjoy your reading, and I'll see you all again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for joining me, Dan.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
It's always a little nicer for something like this to have at least somebody to actually talk with voice to than just the comments. But thank you to everyone in the comments as well. I do love the comments, but it's a very different thing. I'm thinking, because I've got kind of an open weekend, I may do this again tomorrow. We'll see. Somebody else is probably doing Sprintz on a Sunday afternoon, so we'll see what comes up. But I may do this spontaneously again tomorrow. We'll see. I will post and let people know if that's going to happen. Anyway, good reading, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks
see you
for
later.
coming.